Like a tongchim for the brain, this is the Seoul Podcast. I'm King Sejong, reminding you that those who cannot remember the past can easily find work in Korea as an ESL teacher. And here are your hosts, Emma Kalka and Joe McPherson.
And welcome to the Seoul Podcast. This is Joe.
And I'm Emma.
And Pippin has been put in quarantine.
Yes, he's being a little bit too much of a nuisance, so I didn't think we could make it through an entire podcast with him. I've been having to do that lately. Every time I get on Zoom, it's like he just goes crazy.
He does, huh?
Yeah, like more crazier than usual. So lately I've been having to put him out of the room while
put him out of the room.
Yeah.
Put him out.
Yeah, it's like I should probably be very specific with that. I just stick him in the other room and then shut the door so that he can chill out and not bother me while I'm trying to do this.
Oh, good.
I don't know why I like that one. Morgan's just kind of chilling in the background.
Yeah, Morgan's chilling. We are live now on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, Captain Mo, is in our chat room already. So we have participants in the show.
Hey, somebody's actually watching us this time. I don't know if anybody actually last time we did a live one.
Oh my God. Emma?
Mm-hmm.
Has anything happened this week?
I mean, where do you want to start? I think is the question.
I'm trying to find out where we left off. Where are we now?
Okay. We were last week. We talked a lot about Gyeonggi's administrative order, and then since then, Seoul had started sending out text messages to foreigners, highly encouraging them to go get tested. But it wasn't anything mandatory. It was just hey, go get tested if you feel like it, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because and then I believe it was on Tuesday, because that's when I got my text, and then literally like an hour later, the news came out that the Seoul metropolitan city, because it's kind of important to distinguish. This is not the central government; it was the Seoul city government.
Yeah, got to distinguish that.
Had passed a administrative order saying that all foreign workers in Seoul needed to go get tested for COVID-19. So basically pulling a Gyeonggi Province move there.
Mm-hmm.
Which immediately, like, everybody was just an uproar. Like, I think all of my social media just exploded and people are like, what is going on? Because there was a huge lack of communication. It was really unclear.
Yeah.
Exactly who had to get tested, like people who were freelancers, or like, so do I need to get tested? And
who's my boss?
Yeah. And, people who work from home, or like, do I need to get tested?
Yeah.
People on marriage visas, or like who don't work, or like, do I need to get tested? Like, what?
Yeah.
Where's the line?
I'm getting this that the government takes the approach to citizens and foreigners the same way that Korean web designers take towards their web design. They think that everyone has the same computer, so they program their website for that particular computer with that setup, and they all break, and they don't take into account that people have different situations, that they all have unique situations, must I say.
Yeah. It was a huge, like, massive uproar. Everybody was upset by it. Again, because, part of it was the lack of communication, the extreme lack of planning. I also had a lot
planning. After the last Olympics, and we talk about planning.
Yeah. The way that it was explained to me is that the main reason this happened in Seoul was because because Seoul and Gyeonggi Province are so kind of interconnected, that if Gyeonggi Province does something, Seoul has to do it, because then otherwise people are just going to move up into Seoul so they can get out of doing whatever it is in Gyeonggi Province, and vice versa. If Seoul does something, Gyeonggi Province will immediately follow, because Gyeonggi is kind of considered like the Seoul metropolitan area.
Yeah.
So what basically the way it was explained to me is that whatever one does, the other kind of has to follow, or at least that's the logic behind it. So when Gyeonggi Province passed this administrative order saying that all foreign workers had to go get tested for COVID, Seoul was like, well, I guess we got it. Or the Seoul Metro government was like, well, I guess we got to do this too, guys. Okay, everybody go get tested. And yeah, it was a huge mess. I mean, I was hearing from people saying their companies their offices were not going to give them time off to go get tested. So even though it was mandatory, they were like, well,
mandatory, but doesn't matter. You're going to get fined. But the Seoul order, they were going to fine the employers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're going to fine the employers. I think about 2 million won. And yeah, and they were like, well, you can just go get tested on the weekend, which. So once I was hearing that, I knew immediately, like, I'm going to have to convince my boss to give me a day off during the week, because the area that I live in, there's only one testing facility within walking distance, and a majority of us don't have personal vehicles to, go somewhere farther
and you can't
away.
take public transportation after you've taken the test.
You can't take public transportation when you're getting tested. So everybody was going to be going to this one testing facility on Saturdays and Sundays, most likely on Saturday, because you're supposed to quarantine until you get your results back. And it could take, and especially if you have a whole bunch of people going at once, it could take a little bit longer to get those results back. Fortunately, like, I'm in a position where I can work from home if I absolutely have to. So if I need to do it during the week, I can have a morning off, because let's face it, I'm probably going to be in line for a few hours before I could actually get tested. And then I could go back and work from home for that afternoon. And then for the next day, however long it takes, like if I get my results in the morning, I can pop back into the office and work at the office in the afternoon, or, but they would probably just plan for me to work from home that whole day just to be safe. But a lot of other people don't really have that option. So they need like a day or two off.
Yeah.
And then the government was like, or the city government said, well, okay, if you get tested, you don't have to quarantine. Which
just kills the reason for doing this. Why?
Yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose of getting tested.
Yeah.
So it's just, like there was a lot of mass confusion going on, and, outside of the fact that they were saying all foreigners, regardless of, where you work, or if you actually came into contact with somebody, have to get tested. And so you can imagine, like, all these groups started jumping in. So we had like the British Embassy had lodged an official complaint. I think, off the top of my head, I also heard the Canadian Embassy had said something, the American Chamber of Commerce, the Australian Chamber of Commerce. So all these like big international groups are stepping in and saying, hey, this is not a good idea.
Yeah. Sean says he read a report that a nurse said that 2,000 people showed up at a testing site by 7 a.m.
Yeah. I think, and you would think that they would learn from the Gyeonggi experience, because I definitely read articles about Gyeonggi Province where it was something similar. You had like hundreds of people lining up at 7 a.m. to get tested. And then, if you showed up too late, they would send you away.
Yeah.
Because they're not gonna keep open any longer. They're going to close down at 6 p.m. Or whatever their hours are. And like the government was like, oh, well, we're going to increase the capacity at these testing sites, which, who knows if that actually happened.
Yeah, going the wrong way on this one.
Yeah, so it was just massive. And then today, I believe, I I believe it was the British embassy maybe that filed it.
Yeah, the British embassy kind of led the charge. American Chamber of Commerce delivered a letter of protest. Auscham, the Australian Chamber of Commerce, also got involved. French embassy, U.S. embassy put out a statement late today.
They had their own thing. They had the American embassy, I feel like, had their own thing going on this week. That is another thing that we can talk about, because that was the other massive news.
Oh, okay, because I don't think we have an ambassador right now. Do we?
Yeah, we don't. We don't have an ambassador. We still have an interim or acting ambassador at the moment. I don't think they've named one for Seoul yet.
Yeah.
Or for Korea, but yeah, somebody lodged a complaint with the Human Rights Council, and so they announced today that they were opening up an investigation into this administrative order because they felt like it was a violation of human rights.
No, the British embassy filed that complaint, I heard. I mean, others did too. According to the Korea Herald article, they said other foreigners, like individual foreigners and others, had filed complaints with the Human Rights Council.
Right. I believe we only mentioned the British embassy, I think, in our story today. But again, our stories are a lot shorter, so we can't really go into a lot of those details. But yeah, and then I want to say it was about an hour or two ago, news broke that the Seoul government, the central government, had ordered the Seoul Metro government to cancel the administrative order. And so as of now, it is no longer mandatory for all foreigners in Seoul to go get tested for COVID. Though they did put foreigners who work in high risk areas are highly recommended to go get tested. So I think I'm assuming that's a reference to the clusters that kind of started all of this, which were manufacturing.
On top of that, they included Koreans that should go get it done.
And not just foreigners that work there, but we also encourage Koreans who work in these places to go get tested as well. And another kind of rationalization that I heard was that, again, from one of my Korean media people, was that that originally, especially with Gyeonggi, they had wanted solely to focus on just these people that work in factories, but there were a lot of undocumented foreigners, and they worried that if they singled them out, it would be A, discriminatory, and B, they would be less likely to go get tested because they might get found out. So the solution.
Yeah, I mean, I see their problem. I don't see their solution. Yeah.
Right. So in their minds, the solution to this issue was to make all foreigners go get tested, because if everybody who was foreign was going and getting tested, then these undocumented workers would therefore also go get tested because everybody's getting tested.
They could blend in.
And they could blend in. I was like, okay, yes, that's a very real problem, and I see that. I don't really feel like this was a great solution to that. I feel like we could have done some more critical thinking and come up with something maybe better for that. But I mean, they've been doing anonymous testing for a really, really long time now. So
yeah, I was really surprised by some of the articles about there were still some foreigners who really didn't even know the basics of what Korea was doing, that the testing was free and that it was anonymous. They didn't even know that.
Yeah, I was reading, I'm not sure if I read that somewhere, or if it was kind of something that popped up in this conversation that I was having earlier today, that it was kind of also part of the rationalization, I believe I read it somewhere, that they were like, because foreign residents in Korea don't know all the information that the Korean residents do, and so this and that, and I'm like, well, I don't think it's their fault. I think it's probably a lack of, if they don't know, it's probably because you're failing at your job to keep people informed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have to work a little hard to find the information. I'm able to do it. I mean, it's simple things. Okay, for one thing, the emergency messages we get.
Mhm.
I'm not asking that they translate them into English. I'm asking that they give us the capability to copy and paste those messages into Papago. But
Right.
you
Yeah.
can't copy and paste those messages. For some reason, are they scared someone's going to what pirate those messages, do some copyright infringement? I don't get
Yeah.
why they do that. It's a simple thing to allow your text message to be copied and pasted into a translation app.
Right. And then people will do that and they will be informed and they'll know like, oh, okay. So from this day to this day, somebody who tested positive for COVID at this place in my area. So if I was there, I need to go get checked.
I mean, I got an app that does that. I mean, what it does, it takes an app, it takes the messages, and then it translates it to English, and then it sends me another message. So I get 2 messages for the same thing. Usually.
Well, and I heard for a while that they were actually doing emergency alerts in English too, but I've
not seen that.
I haven't seen it. I've had people who've received them.
Really?
And yeah, but I've never seen it. So maybe it was something that they tried and they were like, this is too much work, and they nixed it early on.
I mean, especially if they blast it out to Korean speakers would be like, what? Why am I getting this?
Why am I getting an alert message in English?
Yeah.
I mean, at least with the when they were sending out alerts for like, hey, if you're foreign, we highly recommend that you go get tested. That one, it was sent to me in a text message. And then they actually had it all in one thing. They had Korean on top and then the English on bottom.
Yeah. The English app I'm referring to is called
the foreigners.
The app I'm referring to is called Emergency Ready app, in case you want to know, people want to know. Emergency Ready app. You can get on the App Store.
I will check that out. Yeah, most of the time the alert messages are worded very simply so that I can figure out what the gist of it is. I do okay. And like worst case scenario, I think I always have like a couple coworkers sitting around me that could be like, okay, so is this saying like, I think this is what this says. Can I just double check with you that I'm interpreting this correctly? And they're like, yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah, mine are just basically how many people were done and in which neighborhood, and it's easier for me. It's easier to read it in the Korean because the romanization of some of those neighborhoods is wonky.
Yeah, same here. Like, because it's much easier for me to figure out the area or the specific location if I read it in Korean versus if I try and translate it. Yeah. And at this point, like I've received so many of them. They all basically have the same structure and say the same thing, so it's really easy to look at it and be like, oh, okay. Somebody else in this area tested positive and this is where they were. So did I go to any of these places in the last few days? And no, I didn't. So I'm good because I never go anywhere.
Well, I did want to
normally I just glance at it and I'm like, I'm good.
Let me see. I wanted to read the order from Seoul. There are a few, by the way, I'm finding a lot of this out now on Twitter. Well, one thing is I do follow Emma on Facebook, and you're on Twitter too, but it's funny. You don't mention news stuff on Twitter. You mention personal stuff on Twitter.
I know.
You mention news stuff on Facebook and personal stuff on Twitter.
I got it backwards.
Yeah.
I know.
You think? I do follow some really good.
I do mention a lot of personal stuff on Facebook too.
Laura Bicker, BBCL Bicker. Mm-hmm. Of course, she's from the BBC. Recently, it's been Josh Smith, John Jon Smith. He's the writer from Reuters, and he's been really on top of this. He quoted me in an article, and it was he's been really at the forefront of announcing these things. Surprisingly, Korea Herald and Korea Times have been on top of it as well.
They've been on top of it as well, yeah.
Yeah. Good job.
Right.
I think the first outlet really talking about it was Reuters. I can't think of anyone else. But anyway, I'm getting this from
Yeah, I think the first article did come out on Reuters.
this
It
is
took us a while.
this is the U.S. Embassy Seoul. Never mind. I'm reading the U.S. embassies. Okay, here we go. This is the translated in English. Seoul's administrative order. This is it. The request is to prevent anti-COVID-19 efforts from causing any discrimination or human rights violations against citizens and foreign nationals. The request comes as hold on. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Nope, that's not it. Darn. Whoa. I was trying to find the statement. It was good. Anyway, I did find Embassy Seoul statements, which is, we are aware of local mandates requiring COVID-19 tests for foreign workers. We have raised our concerns with senior level Korean authorities and are advocating strongly for fair and equitable treatment of all U.S. citizens in our shared efforts to stop the pandemic. We encourage U.S. citizens in Korea to abide by all local laws, including mandatory testing. And this was sent out at around 3:59 p.m. on Friday, March 19th, which kind of was right when the Seoul government was changing their rules.
Yeah, because I was sitting around at work kind of waiting to see if something would come in before I left, but it definitely came in after I got home. Or came out. Yeah, that's when they announced it. So I was like, all right, cool. I had a feeling they were going to announce it today. Just because I think yesterday afternoon, evening-ish, Gyeonggi Province announced that they were not going to go through with a new mandate, which was that all foreign workers would have to submit negative COVID test results before they could get hired.
Mm-hmm.
So that one, they ended up nixing that one, and I kind of just skimmed through it and I misunderstood it, and I thought that they were nixing the everybody has to get tested mandate. So I got a little bit confused, and when I posted something earlier on Facebook, which I fixed very quickly once I realized that I had read that wrong. But I kind of had a feeling, I was like, okay, well, if Gyeonggi is kind of starting to step back on some of the things they're trying to do, then I have a feeling that the Seoul Metro government is probably going to do the same. And then, yeah, as soon as I heard that they had filed with the Human Rights Council, I was like, yeah, that's probably gonna go. And I feel like just 3 days, and they probably realized how much of an undertaking it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's over 1 million foreign residents in Korea, I believe, total, something like that. 1 million or 2 million. And a vast majority of them live in Seoul. So that's like hundreds of thousands of people who are now going to have to be flooding into these testing sites because they only gave us 2 weeks to get it done.
Oh, man. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So just from a logistics point of view, that's like almost impossible, I feel, unless, especially if companies are not allowing people to take time off to go get tested for something that the government is saying it's mandatory. And yeah.
Well, I found what Gyeonggi said yesterday, Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
They said, this is based on a question about the human rights and such and the logic.
Mm-hmm.
They said, as we responded in today's brief, after Lunar New Year holidays, the rate of infections among foreign workers increased as low as 11% and as high as 14%. So this is a high risk situation. Many foreign workers are very young, so many have little to no symptoms. So it is difficult to detect these cases early. Also, information is not easily accessible to them, and it is not easy to approach testing centers or hospitals in terms of access. Also, many live together in dormitories, so if 1 or 2 get infected, the entire family could get infected. If they live in dormitories, how do they with their families? Okay.
I think they just meant the people that live around them, not necessarily the family.
Okay. Different type of 가족. All right. Because of these risks, in special circumstances, each district is conducting group testings for free. Oh, I love how they keep doing this all the time. They're acting like, but we're doing a favor for you. I love that
Like
one.
they've always been free. What are you
They're
talking
free, and we won't rat you out to immigration. Come on, guys.
That's been in place for months, at least since the Itaewon cluster last spring. I'm pretty sure that's right. And that was when they started an anonymous testing. And that's when they started shifting to all free testing.
It reminds me of when Seoul Korean department stores and such were trying to mimic Black Friday sales. And we go in for the Black Friday sale. Look, we marked it down 4%. What a bargain. That's what it sounds like to me. We judge that these are not discrimination or branding to foreign workers, nor do we think it should be accepted that way. We have continued to group test high-risk occupations and high-risk areas. For example, we conducted group tests for public transit drivers and post-birth care center workers as well. In the current situation, after Lunar New Year holidays, there were various personal meetings that led to spreadings, and many were spreading through mild or no symptom cases, which is why we're conducting group testings considering those risks. Here they do it again. They're doing it again. They think every foreigner has the same freaking job. And after work, we all congregate in the same opium den somewhere. Ah, man. This is nuts.
At least in Seoul, we've had stricter shutdown orders for bars and clubs and stuff. So people are not congregating. And we're still under the gathering ban where you can't get together in a group of more than 4 people.
Yeah, but they're assuming we all live in dormitories. They don't get that there are other types of foreign workers here. They're all assuming we're the same type of computer. And so they're making their software for that one type of computer. They don't see that we all have different operating systems and different types of computers themselves. Some are Macs, some are PCs. Which is why when you go to a Korean website and it's all gobbledygook text because they use some weird font that is not compatible with computers that aren't this narrow. Well, anyway, it's hard for me to explain. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. I mean, really, if there were a lot of cases that were spreading through dormitories, then they should be looking at these places that have the dormitories and be like, are they even do they have any sort of COVID guideline to prevent the spread? Because even in dormitories, I feel like there are steps that you could take to keep the situation safe for the people that are living there. And that's, not crowding a bunch of people into a small space, for one, I think is a good way to kind of prevent the spread. But you still got these companies that are cutting corners because they don't give a shit about their workers. And they just, as long as people are on the floor working, that they don't really care about anything else. So really they should be targeting those companies and finding out like, okay, where are they lacking in terms of keeping these workers safe? And how do we fix those issues? And then also, doing preemptive testing if you've got, if you've had a few cases, especially in crowded factories and, these crowded company dormitories, if you have a few cases, chances are you're going to have more. So in that sense, preemptive testing makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be for everybody that works in the dorms or lives in these dorms, not just...
Yeah, well, that's targeted though. That's targeted preemptive testing, not carpet bomb. Your passport makes you more vulnerable to COVID-19.
Right. Yeah, so it's just, I mean, it was a huge mess, and I think they realized, hopefully, I mean, it took them a couple of days, but they finally realized, maybe this was not a good idea. We should maybe not.
just get into their minds. I'm just trying to think of what their thought process is. I was kind of hoping they weren't that one dimensional in their thinking process, and then they come out and do this, and I'm like, oh my god, they really are. It scares me. It really scares me. There's no nuance. They really think testing a coupon warehouse is the same as testing every single foreigner in the country.
Right, and it's not.
and excluding the Koreans from testing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the big thing is, the fact that they weren't requiring anybody who works in offices with foreigners to get tested. It's just the foreigners, which makes no sense. Like I don't even know who the CEO of my company is, but yet he was going to have to go get tested along with the foreigners that work there. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure he doesn't even know. He was probably like, what? We hire foreigners? We have foreigners? Oh, cool. What? Wait, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty sure whoever our CEO is, he probably does know that there's an entire foreign language department in our company. I wouldn't assume that he's that out of the loop, but
yeah.
I mean, just the fact that I don't know where his office is. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if it's a man. It could be a woman. I don't know their name. And yet this person is going to have to go get tested because they happen to hire about 15 foreigners in one department.
Yep.
And that's not even including like the various performers or the various foreign people that work with us on a contract basis.
Mm-hmm.
That come in for this or that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you include them, like then it's a lot bigger, but yeah, it was really kind of, yeah. I think some jokes were flying, like a mutual friend of ours is like, I do not see the dean of my university going in and getting COVID tested.
Yeah.
And she was like, and I think a lot of university teachers have been working from home anyway. So they're like, but I don't even leave my house. Like, I'm not at risk. I am like the lowest risk of catching COVID, and now because I'm a foreign worker, I have to go get tested.
Someone else made the analogy of the U.S. analogy. It's like taking away the vote for tens of thousands of minorities just so you can block two. Oh shit! My brain is gone.
Wait, wasn't that on? Didn't somebody say that on my Facebook?
I think it was on your Facebook.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Somebody made that comment on my Facebook. I forgot.
You look it up.
Like, it's your Facebook. You look it up, Emma.
You look it up. I'm looking up my Twitter. I'm the worst. I am the worst. Today, my analogy game is just dead. Oh man. Oh
right, yeah. Okay, so public health is more important is the Korean equivalent of better to prevent tens of thousands of minorities from voting if it means stopping a couple illegal votes.
Yeah.
That was the analogy.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
And that was it. Yeah, so what was this? There's a Naver article over here is how many did they test? Hold on. How many did they test? So all the testing. It didn't say how many they tested, but this Naver article says they found a total of, wait for it, 6 foreign workers were confirmed with the virus. Congratulations.
Is that in Seoul or Gyeonggi?
In Seoul. This is Seoul.
I think it's been a few thousand.
I thought in Gyeonggi it was like 200. They found. It wasn't any bigger. I mean, it was still coming out to 0.1%.
Right. Yeah, 6 people.
So what is this like? They keep saying it's 14% of the foreign population. Then they test everyone. It's like it's
Uh,
0.1% of the population, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I feel there's just a smarter way to handle it, and they just went like in the opposite direction.
Oh man. And really, I should point out that it's not just foreigners talking about this. Koreans were talking about how embarrassing this was. I think it was the Justice Party, was it? That had a press conference and they protested it.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember, is the Justice Party one of the right wing or left wing parties? They keep changing their names all the time. Is it left leaning? Okay.
Left. Yeah, it's left. Yeah, they're the ones. They always stick up for us.
Yeah, but what's funny is
they're always in our corner.
Yeah, I have one misguided Korean friend who's like, "This is what happens when you have Nazis in power." I'm like, hold on, no. The ruling party's left is liberal and is progressive. The president's progressive. In fact, the leader of the Progressive Party that's in power made a statement against the order, with supporting the foreigners. So I think she was a bit confused.
Yeah. Well, and they also had a lot of Korean health experts who were saying like from who were experts in infectious diseases, and they're like, this makes no sense to for an order like this to go through. It's not gonna really, it's just gonna it's gonna flood the system, and then people who really do need to get tested are not going to be able to get tested because you have all of these people who really don't need to be tested filling up the lines and filling up the capacity. And so you're likely to have more people slipping through the cracks and spreading it. So I don't know. I think we just need that vaccine program to kick in gear, and maybe be okay.
It's hurting everyone. It's really hurting everyone that we're being so slow with the vaccinations. I mean, I understand that they were trying to be cautious. I will give them the benefit of the doubt that their excuse was they were trying to be cautious rather than, again, not being prepared. And they were just waiting to see how other countries reacted to the virus. So rather than doing testing, they're letting the other countries be the guinea pigs for this before they go through. But we're also slow. It's also hurting international industries still. The tourism industry, which they're not supporting that much, is pretty much crashed, and it cannot get back on its footing until we get rid of the 2-week quarantine requirement for incoming people.
For incoming pass. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen until we get herd
immunity.
Immunity. I was going to say herd. I was going to say herd mentality, but we already have herd mentality.
We already have that one.
Yeah, because I mean, some people are like saying like, "Oh, well, if I'm vaccinated, I can just come here and not do the quarantine." I'm like, yeah, you do, because just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean you carry it. You don't carry it. You can still carry it. It's just you're just not going to get sick from it, but you can carry it and spread it. So they're still going to keep the quarantine until we have herd immunity.
Yeah, and they're estimating that around November. So
yeah. Yay.
Really, they just need to approve a lot of these other vaccines. Like, they already have them purchased. It's just they can't ship them in until the Korean government, the drug ministry, approves it. And also,
it was approved. AstraZeneca was approved. They're starting in April. They've already started. They've already started giving.
AstraZeneca and Pfizer, they've already started.
Okay. They've already started, and they're spreading to over 65 in April. In May, it's going to be high risk professions because a friend of ours she's scheduled. She's a helper teacher at one of the public schools, and she's going to get it in May.
Yeah, I think that's also people who work in the medical industry but are not frontline COVID workers. So, people who work in private clinics, they're also, I think, scheduled for May as well. And then general public, I think they're going to start in June, but they're even going to have classifications for that. So it's going to be like teachers and this and that, So, and then everybody's just like, oh, and foreigners are going to be last. I'm like, I mean, I don't want to say a flat out no, because I guess there is a possibility that could happen, but I feel like they're going based off of industry, not so much. And they have stated before that foreign residents are going to be treated just like Korean residents when it comes to the vaccines. So we get them for free. And I feel like, again, I think they're going by industry, not which I think will have more of effect over when you can go in and get the vaccine.
Yeah.
More so than being a foreigner.
There is a possibility they might move English teachers up further.
Yeah. I mean, I would just assume that English teachers would fall under teachers, and teachers, I believe, teachers are starting spring, right?
They're not teachers, but.
Well, I mean, I feel like it should be like school workers, people who work with children.
Wonderman Gongsa. I know it's.
I know, but again, we're really not going to know until we get there, and we still have a couple months until we get there. So hopefully they planned that a little bit better than they planned the testing mandates. Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, supposedly, I mean, they've been working on them, so I mean, here's hoping. Supposedly they've been working on it for a few months now, so we'll see how that ends up playing out in practice.
Let's check in on ourselves in 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, I've already resigned myself to the fact that I'm probably not going to get my first vaccine until maybe July.
I'm thinking October for me.
Because I mean, working in media industry, I don't know where we fit in the hierarchy.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll move some stuff for us because we're kind of international tech company that works with exporting. Mm-hmm. Speaking of international, this has been really depressing. I'm following this right now. Friend of the show, friend of us, Michael Spavor. His trial in China is happening today. People don't know Michael Spavor was a part of the Seoul foreign community, very, very active member of the Seoul foreign community. And he worked a lot with North Korea in bringing lots of cultural events to North Korea back and forth. In fact, if you remember when Dennis Rodman visited North Korea, Michael Spavor was the one who arranged that. And a couple of years ago, because I think one of the owners or one of the execs of Huawei, the Chinese tech company, was put under house arrest in Canada on request of the U.S. because of corporate spying, or not really corporate spying, but it was spying on U.S. citizens through its electronics. China retaliated by trumping up charges against two Canadians, a former ambassador and Michael Spavor himself, and imprisoned them, charged them both with spying, which is just so weird because it's Mike just lives on the North Korean border and he just hangs out in North Korea. He goes boating with Kim Jong-un. It's just
that is something that I never thought I would hear.
Yeah. I got pictures of Spav, and he and Kim Jong-un seem to get along well. I don't know. And in fact, it was a few years ago. He gave me a call and asked if I would be interested in doing organizing a food tour to North Korea, and something like he suggested me to the North Korean leadership.
Oh God. I'm like, I would just rather they not know who I am.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, just you talking to me and me talking to him, we already have CIA dossiers on us. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, it's been a really sad situation with Michael.
I'm not connected.
It's been a sad situation. We've not heard anything from him. No one's had any access to him. No diplomats have been able to get in to see him. And the trial started this morning at 10 a.m. It was over by noon. And so far, no verdict. So we don't know what that means.
Yeah.
China is saying domestic law overrides international law, which no, it doesn't.
No, that's kind of why we have international law.
It's just showing more. Oh, China, you are trying so hard to be the supervillain, aren't you?
Well, I mean, you heard about the meeting. Oh, the meeting with the Blinken and the Chinese officials went down today.
No. I've seen that. I was obsessed with the foreign COVID thing. What happened?
Oh, it was just they were having some words, and what was supposed to be like a very short, like 2 or 3 minute opening ended up lasting for 2 hours because they just kept going back and forth at each other.
Good.
And this was done in front of the media, so this was open to the media. The media were there. And it's just, so there's transcripts of it, there's video of it, and
oh man,
they were just, like, we've got the Chinese officials are bringing like, so Blinken's bringing up like the genocide of the Uyghurs.
Yeah,
China's like, well, Black people can't stay alive in America. And it was just stuff like that going back and forth, and it's just like,
I love how whenever someone brings something up that's bad, they point out, oh, well, you do something else. It's like saying, like, someone says, well, you have a pee stain on your trousers, and someone says, well, you have something on your lip. I'm like, that does not cure that person of the pee stain on their trousers.
You still have a pee stain on your trousers.
Yeah. What does that do? Does that excuse you to act? I mean, when you're, it just. Does that really excuse you to have bad behavior? That's what they do. It's just a distraction. It's like, oh, I can do this because you do this. Well, why don't you just, be a human and stop doing it?
Yeah, that's a novel idea. Why don't we just stop doing the bad things that we do?
Yeah. I don't know. I think honestly, as an American, it's kind of a relief to not be the super big baddie anymore. As bad as we were. As bad.
You're not as bad.
China's kind of eclipsing us.
As they do in most things.
Yeah. I'm very close to saying something that would get us in trouble. So I'm not going to say.
Let's not go there.
I'm going to
get in trouble.
I'm filtering.
Filter.
I'm really upset. I'm really so sad. I'm so pissed off about Michael. I wanted to come home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hopefully. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like this is a no news is good news situation.
Yeah, they said the court's going to deliver its verdict on a later date in accordance with the law.
Yep. So we have to wait. Ish. Emmett, gee, thanks, Joe. Yes, Sean. It's like, gee, thanks, Joe. Now I'm on the CIA's radar.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think everyone listening to us is now going to be.
You're all now on the radar. Congratulations.
I've not been. Hold on. I was going to say I've not been spot checked at airports, but yes, I have. Huh. That hasn't happened in a while.
I've been in an airport for like 4 years, so I don't know. Maybe next time I'm actually able to travel somewhere, I'm gonna get spot checked.
Did China denied entry to everyone? 10 diplomats from 8 countries, and they tried to get in to see the trial, and they weren't allowed in. That is nuts. That's arrogant.
Wrong. Seems wrong. They should have let them in.
Makes me sad.
Yeah, and now is the unfortunate waiting period.
Yeah, I'm just really worried about that. Other things too. This is a little disturbing. Okay, just when Korea's acting bad, usually China's acting bad, but also Denmark. Can you believe Denmark is?
I saw that on Twitter. Somebody was like, I woke up this morning and look, congratulations, South Korea, you're no longer in the international spotlight.
Yeah. So Denmark's
Like,
going to
what?
limit the number of, quote, non-Western residents in neighborhoods up to 30% to reduce the risk of religious and cultural parallel societies. So you're supposed to totally assimilate. Do not bring your culture into Denmark. They even use the word ghetto in their statements.
Ooh.
Oh my God. So
Like that's an
forget it.
area
There
of
will
the world-
not be a Chinatown in Denmark. There will not.
Sorry. They always
Oh
have
my
like really
Yeah. Really
well,
sad.
hey, you know, maybe Korea will just fade into the background for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm purposely okay, I'm sorry guys. I am avoiding the case about the Atlanta shooter because it's got me extremely disturbed and upset, and I've been crying a lot about that. So I don't want to cry on the show. I think others have said stuff that I would not be able to top.
Right,
I won't say anything that anyone else hasn't already said about that.
Mhm.
Just extremely sad. I'm so sad. Every time I come across any story about that, I fall apart.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we've been reporting on that as well, and it's just this week. It's been a week. The news industry has been a week.
Yeah. It's all been like race and nationality related this week.
Mhm. Hey, but two high-level American officials came to Korea for the first time.
Well, in this administration.
Yeah, for this first time for the Biden administration. Sorry.
I hope we don't. I hope Biden doesn't.
I thought that
follow-
was a given.
I hope Biden doesn't follow Trump's example and wait like a year and a half to get us an ambassador.
Oh yeah. I mean, because they're still in the middle of doing their whole North Korea policy review, which is supposed to be finished in the coming weeks. So I'm hoping when they finally decide exactly what their North Korea policy is going to be, in line with that, they'll go ahead and name an ambassador.
Okay, and this is where we should understand about how the American embassy behaves.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of American immigrants, expats, kind of assume that the American embassy's on their side. Not really. Not in South Korea's case. The priority of American embassy is dealing with North Korea, and making sure Korean trade with Korea goes smoothly. The Americans that are actually in Korea are very distant in their priorities. And if anything that Americans do conflict with keeping smooth ties with South Korea, then the American citizen will lose, will be ignored.
Well, and legally, there's very little the embassy can do to help American citizens, and that's not just the American embassy; it's all embassies. There's very little legally that they can do to help citizens in the country.
True.
Like I know. I mean, my one interaction with the embassy, like the person I was dealing with, like she was wonderful, and she kind of went above and beyond to help me out in the situation. But there were even and I think a lot of that was just because she personally wanted to help me, so she would do something to help me out outside of the realm of the embassy, just because she was a nice person. But within her role within the embassy, there was very little that they could actually do to help. she's like, we can't recommend legal representation. I can give you a list of like 200 law offices that have English speaking, that somebody there speaks English, but I can't tell you which one to choose.
Don't expect much. But also in the sense that they were kind of late to the game on the COVID-19 response too. We're just not the priority. It's like the British beat us to it.
They did.
But AmCham is on top of it. That's what's funny is American Chamber of Commerce.
There's like, we are on top of this. Well, I mean, that makes sense because they represent a lot of American companies.
Well, they represent a lot of big American companies. Unlike other chambers of commerce, don't expect AmCham to support small American businesses in Korea. They're here to support the giant corporations.
Right. And so that makes sense that they would step up and do something because they're representing these major American corporations in Korea. And they're like, so you have all these executives who are like, I don't want to have to go in and get tested. Fix this.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
That's exactly what happened. That's why you have all of these Chamber of Commerces stepping in, because it's like they represent these massive international companies based here in Seoul. And they're, these CEOs, executives, they're like, I don't want to have to go in and get tested.
They're not going to listen to us small fries. They got to listen to the big ones. It's young buns will only listen to young buns.
So that's why we don't have the mandate anymore, because the British embassy and then all these chambers of commerce stepped in. We're like, no.
Maybe if the Human Rights Council did start investigating but still, yeah. Well, I'm gonna wrap things up. We did a good hour.
Yeah, I think we did.
Anything? I mean, is there any other news stories that kind of slipped through the cracks that are really big we should talk about?
Nope. No, I mean, nothing really. I mean, nothing big happened with Blinken and Austin being here.
Mm-hmm.
Other than I heard that after the joint news conference, when they turned off all the camera, that things were a little bit tense between the four, because I guess Blinken kept mentioning human rights abuses in North Korea, and the Korean officials were just like, we're trying to make them like us.
Yeah.
And this came after Kim Jong-un's sister,
Kim Yo-jong.
letter of Kim Yo-jong.
We know who has the power there.
I am like equally, I don't know what the word is. Like, I'm terrified of her, but at the same time, I have like, I'm not sure if respect's the right word, but something like that. I'm just
you can respect and be terrified, admire and be terrified.
Yeah, it's like this weird mix, and I'm just like, she terrifies me.
Yeah, she's dangerous. Yeah, she's the one. She's the Dick Cheney to Kim Jong-un's George W. Yeah,
that was like the only other major news issue, but even that, I ended up not being as big, I think, of a news story this week, just because like all the foreigner mandates going around.
For our purposes.
Right. I think in Korean media, it was all about Blinken and Austin and what this is going to mean going forward with dealing with North Korea, because the U.S. still hasn't figured out their North Korea policy yet.
Yeah. Well, they could consult a few people here that know stuff.
That's why
Anyway, you can follow us on Twitter at King Sejong. Do you want people to follow you, Emma, on Twitter?
You can. I feel like I should start posting new stuff.
Okay.
What happens is I forget that I have Twitter, and I'm like, oh, I haven't posted.
Then you post you have a date on Sunday.
Yeah.
Everyone knows you have a date.
I have a date on Sunday, guys.
Salsa dancing.
Hey, you liked it.
Oh, I like salsa dancing. I'm happy for you. I want you to go salsa dancing.
So it's going to be difficult with the mask. So
Just imagine, just pretend it's like Carnival or something.
Yeah, it's definitely an activity that you have to wear a mask for. So you're up close and personal.
So what is your Twitter?
It's just Emma Kalka.
Kalka. Okay.
Kalka. Yeah. I'll try and post like more serious stuff.
We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/SeoulPodcast. And you can follow us on YouTube. I think I'm going to move the Seoul Podcast account to its own channel away from Zen Kimchi. We'll see. Debating it. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/SeoulPodcast. If you want some of our back episodes from a long time ago. I'd recently written an article on our webpage at SeoulPodcast.com about the COVID-19 response, and I included the audio from an episode we did in 2009 with people that were put in quarantine during the H1N1 swine flu. And that was another bad incident where there was a small outbreak, and they told the Korean staff this is from the government. They told the Korean staff to stay in their apartments, and then they rounded up all the foreigners at 4 a.m. and put them in a locked facility because they're diseased. Foreigners are diseased. Anyway, but we are continuing doing live shows at 7:30 on Fridays. So. I will keep you in touch if we are going to change channels, but if you do, just on either Zen Kimchi or on Seoul Podcast on YouTube, just subscribe and ring that bell if you want to be notified when we're going to be doing live shows, and I'll try to announce them ahead of time. Until then, be safe out there.
The Seoul Podcast is a production of Zen Kimchi International, copyright 2021, under the Creative Commons license. Parts of this podcast may be used for non-commercial purposes if you remember to give us credit. You can contact us at sejong@seoulpodcast.com. That's SEJONG@seoulpodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at King Sejong and on Facebook at facebook.com/SeoulPodcast. For a transcript of this episode, listen to it again and write down what you hear. See you next week. Until then, may you be alerted ahead of time that your apartment is shutting off the water for 2 days.